So the biggest thing about stress is that it causes a lot of changes inside the body, especially chronic stress. We're going to go over that a little bit so people can understand a little bit better what it is and how it affects you. Because remember, we talked about immune dysfunction, oxidative stress, and chronic inflammation, systemic inflammation being the drivers of chronic disease. And stress is a contributing factor. It's one of those root things we talked about. It's a root. And a lot of people are under a lot of stress all the time. We know that happened a lot during COVID, and people had all kinds of problems during that period of time, started drinking, doing different things that they never did before. And I know I was under a tremendous amount of stress. There's some stress we're going to talk about too that has to do with your interplay with people, because sometimes you're around people that tend to be antisocial, and they kind of put little jabs into you, and you don't even know it's actually happening. And those people can be very toxic and damaging to you. They're like the toxic vampire personalities that suck the life out of you, and they cause massive amounts of stress as well. So, but that is another topic for a different day. We'll be talking about that. All right. But let's go through. I got a lot of different pictures today that I pulled up. Let me see if I can find any of them. What I'm going to do is talk a little bit about where the stress mechanism happens inside the body. And I'm going to talk about the different things that can cause stress, because there's physical, mental, chemical stress, right? So we're looking at the environment. There's a lot of chemicals out there that causes a massive amount of stress on the person's body. We have the emotional stress that people have from worry and concern, divorce, problems with the children, all those different things that happen, finance, all those different things. And besides that, we also talked about emotional, chemical, physical stress, obviously injuries. Sometimes people exercise too much, and that's a big stress on the person's body, because they're putting too much stress on their body from their exercise and not giving their body enough chance to recover from different things they're experiencing. Some people recover faster than others. Okay. Some people do not recover as fast, and you have to be knowing your body a little bit better. Okay. Now, let me grab some notes here too. Okay. All right. So let me just speak off the top of my head. When we're talking about any kind of stress, there's an area of the brain that actually always is trying to put you in a homeostatic balance, keeping things perfect with your temperature, all the different neurological things are going on, your hormones, all those things are happening inside the brain. And that's in the brain. It's called the hypothalamus. It's the main area of the connection between the brain and the hormonal system. It actually produces hormones that trigger off other hormones inside the pituitary. And we're going to go over this a little. Let me show you a little picture to kind of give you a better idea. I'm going to show you a little complicated one to start with, and we're going to make it simplified. Okay. So here's the first one. This makes it real easy. So you got the hypothalamus stimulating the pituitary gland, which stimulates the adrenal gland. Much more simplified, huh?
Yeah.
That's a lot easier. You know what I mean?
What's the physical connection between the pituitary and the adrenals? Is it a nerve?
No. Between the pituitary gland and adrenal glands, it's purely hormonal. Hormonals are chemicals that travel through the bloodstream.
Okay.
And they're actually stimulated that way. With the hypothalamus, with that corticotrophic releasing hormone, that also travels through the bloodstream. But because it wants to have a rapid response, it can't get diluted within the systemic blood flow. It's got its own specialized blood flow to travel to the pituitary. So it's in concentrated form. So it responds quickly to those receptors within the pituitary.
I see.
Got it. Okay. I have a lot of notes, which I'm not sure if I'm going to go over this. There's a lot of my own fun notes to look at and stuff like that. But I thought I'd go over a little bit about the function of the hypothalamus, because it's a lot of people don't know much about the hypothalamus. You say hypothalamus, what the heck? You know about the brain, you know about the pituitary, you may have heard about it, but the hypothalamus is like a major player. It controls all kinds of different things. And this little small, powerful part of the brain region is essential for survival and well-being of the organism, integrating signals from various systems to maintain homeostasis. That's its job. Manage temperature, everything else. Let's go through it. So number one, endocrine control, because it regulates the pituitary gland. Pituitary gland is considered the master gland, but if you see some people that says the hypothalamus, because it's not really a gland, okay? Because the glands produce the hormones, but this actually is the nerves, the neurons that are producing that hormone. And it's very, very important for regulating stress response between the hypothalamus, pituitary, and the adrenal axis. You probably heard that HPA axis. axis. That's the hypothalamus, pituitary, and the adrenal gland axis. All right. It regulates temperature of the person's body. So it has cooling mechanisms for like sweating and heating mechanisms like shivering to maintain stable body temperature. It controls hunger and satiety. All right. So it controls those by ghrelin and leptin. Those respond in the digestive system. And that basically they're different parts of the hypothalamus. We're not going to worry about which side and everything else. It regulates the sleep wake cycles, the circadian rhythms that are going on in your body. It regulates the autonomic nervous system control with the fight or flight, with the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. It controls emotional and behavioral regulation, like aggression, sexual behavior, parental instincts, all those different things work through the limbic system within the hypothalamus. Okay. It controls fluid balance and blood pressure because it releases antidiuretic hormone from another part of the pituitary. Let someone in here. Where is it? Someone's trying to get in. So let's see if I can get him in here. Okay. Where is the admit button? You heard someone trying to get in, right, Lonnie? I don't see anything indicating someone coming in. All right. Well, I'm going to continue on. Okay. Usually it's right on top. Okay. Oh, here it is over here. I got you. It was a whole different screen. All right. So the other thing that happens is it has to do with blood pressure. So it regulates water retention through blood pressure. It also regulates reproductive function because it actually controls menstruation, pregnancy, lactation. All those different things are going on with the body. All right. Now, the problem is when you're under stress, there's a surge of cortisol, that's a stress hormone, and it has wide effects on it. The problem is if it continues on, it actually has an effect on insulin. All right. But chronic high levels of cortisol leads to insulin resistance, contributing to diabetes and metabolic syndrome. It controls glucagon. Glucagon actually produces sugar, right, inside the body, and it breaks down in the liver. So it does that. It has to do with thyroid hormone. And with chronic stress, it leads to hypothyroidism, like symptoms like fatigue, slow metabolism. It affects growth hormone. So then you can't repair, right, because you're impairing the tissue regeneration. That's what growth hormone does. It leads to muscle wasting, poor healing, okay, things of that nature. Then we have sex hormones. It can cause irregular menstrual periods. It can lower testosterone, leading to reduced libido in men and even women. Aldosterone, which is controlling water retention and high blood pressure. We talked about leptin and ghrelin, increasing appetite, particularly with the high calorie foods. Okay, when you're under cortisol influence, it influences leptin, okay, and then ghrelin. So it promotes hunger. So it increases your appetite, particularly for high caloric foods, cruddy foods, So of course, it's going to contribute to weight gain and abdominal fat. It controls, of course, the production of more cortisol. So there's a negative feedback in there, but at the same time, if you're getting stimulation from the hypothalamus still, it's out of balance. It's going to still stimulate more excessive cholesterol. It also affects DHEA, which is a precursor to testosterone. There's a thing called when you have certain steroid hormones in your body that actually are anabolic in your body. Androsterone is one of them, and pregnenolone is another one, which is one of your master anabolic hormones. And when you're under a lot of stress, it actually steals that and produces cortisol from it. So it literally takes it away, can't produce it. So it's going to take that and it's going to produce the cortisol from it, which is not good. All right. Now, what can cause these different things? Let's take a look for a second. Let me see if I have this here. That's the stress one. Okay. So here's the stress response. We talked about the hypothalamus, right? And I don't have a cursor. You can't see my cursor here when I'm in there, can you? A little square, a little X? No? Well, you see on top of it says brain, right? It says hypothalamus, stimulating adrenocorticotrophic hormone, which stimulates the adrenals. You can see that. And you can see the effects, right? It's going to produce glycogen and glucose from the liver. It does this, really not a big deal. It dilates the blood, the bronchioles in your airways, all right, which is good for asthma if you had that. It's going to start screwing up your digestive system. It decreases digestive activity. It also stimulates increased heart rate, increased blood pressure. Okay, all those different things occur. Now, so if we're looking at this, when we're looking at load concept, okay, there's certain things that can cause stress. Okay, so you can see free radicals, which we know causes a lot of oxidative stress. Antibiotics and prescriptions cause stress on the body. Nutritional deficiencies can cause stress on the body. Psychological problems and emotional stress can create stress on the body. Environmental toxins, which we talked about, can cause stress. And we have vaccinations, allergens, heavy metals, bacteria and viruses, dehydration, all cause physiological dysfunction in the body because of stress. It's a huge load. And a lot of people have these. So it equals stress. So when we're looking at cause, we're seeing all these factors, but this psychological problems and emotional stress is one that's something that has to be controlled by the person because it's a perception. It's a perceived stress. Just because something's going on doesn't have to be perceived as stress. Some people consider it stressful, some people don't. So some people worry about it, some people don't worry about it. A lot lot of times, if you just confront what's really going on, it becomes less worrisome. It's when you don't confront something that it becomes very worrisome because you don't know the outcome. If you know what's going to happen, it's a lot easier to handle. Now, the other thing I had here is this little diagram here. These are unseen or seen type of things of stress. I'm sorry, I couldn't enlarge this, okay? But I hope you can read these. But you can see on this side, you can see anger, You ever notice some people just are angry all the time? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or anxious. They're very anxious about every little thing. That's a level of how they operate in life. And a lot of times those things are happening, things that have been going on in the past in their life. We got life cycle disruption, overwork, gluten intolerance, noise pollution, heavy metals. You can see all these different poor diet, food allergies, geophysical stressors, maldigestion. And a lot of times that can be caused by stress too. Fear of what's going to happen. A lot of times when people are anxious and things of that nature, a lot of times I'd say, don't read the news. Don't look at the news. Listen to good things. Listen to comedy. Listen to things that don't bring stress on. Stay away from those different things. It's the best way to do it. If you listen to the news, it's always negative. What are they talking about? Death, destruction, people dying, all murder, war, blah, blah. Those can be really stressful for some people. And so you've got to just take a break. Turn off the TV. Don't listen to it. Listen to music. Listen to joyful things. That's going to help a lot of those emotional stressors. Nutritional deficiencies. Obviously, a lot of those, I would hope that you wouldn't have those at this point in time. But it's a big problem for some people. Sometimes you just clear up these nutritional deficiencies. It helps a person dramatically. Excessive exercise, like we talked about. Some people can't recover. They need to take a break. I have one person right now. She exercises so much. I said, look, just stop. I said, she thinks she's helping herself, but she's leading down a road that's causing a lot of physiological dysfunction in her body. Malabsorption, which of course can lead to deficiencies, electromagnetic fields from phones and things of that nature. If you're always around that stuff, which is hard to get away from, it can cause stress on the body. Depression, late hour, people working night shifts and stuff like that puts a big stress on the circadian rhythms. That screws up your hypothalamus. And what is your hypothalamus going to do? It's going to see it's out of balance. It's going to say, hey, I'm going to put out this corticotrophic releasing hormone. We're going to stress. We got to handle the stress. Inhalant allergies, guilt feeling, okay? Traumas, whether they're mental, emotional, or physical, any of those. You ever been around people that are just so invalidating to you, or they evaluate you, think you're, they're like, I love you and stuff like that, but just tell me you're really not very good at that. You really should take up another topic, or you should take up another job because you really suck at that. You ever see those people around? They're terrible. Or they invalidate you in other ways. Terrible. Sleep deprivation, not good. Okay. Sleep is extremely important, especially for stress. Surgery is a major stress on the body. Temperature extremes. And we did talk about cold baths. That is a major stress on the body. But what did we say last time? It actually stressed out and it produced those things we talked about last one, right? Remember the sirtuins? I don't even want to say the name because probably people said, oh my God, don't repeat that again. Those things, but it actually helps those. Lactose intolerance, whiplash, huge stress. Chemicals in the body, from what you suck into your body, the pesticides, all the different things. Molds, sucrose, sugar is a stress on the body. That's a stress on the body. And radiation, high levels of radiation, Obviously, if you're under power lines and stuff like that, that's an EMF field you're going to be in. That's a big stress on the person's body. It screws up all those different things. It affects the hypothalamus. What do we say about the hypothalamus? What does it regulate? It regulates reproduction, right? They know that with cows and stuff underneath power lines and stuff, they don't have the normal reproductive stuff. We talked about reproductive function. Regulates reproductive hormones and processes such as menstruation, pregnancy, and lactation by influencing the release of gonadotropins from the pituitary. So if it's creating an imbalance in that body of any type of stress like this, it's going to fire off that hypothalamus, which is going to affect all those things we talked about. All right. And radiation. All right. So that was that one. Do I have any more here? We already talked about those. So those are all my little my pictures today that I had. I think they are. I tried to make it as simple and short as I could tonight, but you can see how this is such an important area, and that's one of the things we're taking care of, those chemical stresses, okay, the environmental stresses. But the things that a lot of you may be dealing with is just perceived stress from the different things you're in. And one of the best ways you can get that taken care of is stay away from toxic people, okay? And you may know someone that you get around and just don't feel good when you're around them. Those are the people you want to avoid, and then stay away from the news because they are creating havoc. It's got to be hype to be able to get ratings, right? So they've got to get your attention with something and it'll suck you in. Just turn the darn thing off and not even watch it. Turn on good things. If you're going to watch something, watch good comedians. I'm going to see if I can find it real quick because you guys can pull him up on YouTube. He's really, see if I can pull him up. It's Bargatze, Bargatze, Nate Bargatze. I don't know if anybody likes comedy, but it's not raunchy comedy. It's very clean, but he's very funny and he's enjoyable to watch, you know? So, and it's just better to laugh. You know, who was it? Can't remember who's the one that actually taught about that now, is about laughing, you know, for stress, comedian, you know, and people actually healed their cancer, you know, and staying joyful and being in a whole different level. You know, one of the things they found about actors, when actors took part and they took parts of being depressed and everything else, they actually brought on a stress response and created negative things that happened inside their body. But when they mocked up being happy, it changed everything. So just mock up being happy is going to be a big positive thing rather than being, you know, the other way around. So it's really important. So anyway, that was my little spiel tonight. I thought I'd like to at least share that with you guys to get at least an idea of what's happening inside your body when this is going on. But that hypothalamus is like the main dude. It's the guy that's keeping balance of your body, you know, and we got to treat it right, you know, but we don't want to input all those different things we're talking about, even sugar.